This is Sheila Cox, 5-star real estate agent in the Sugar Land, Katy, and Richmond, Texas areas. And today I want to talk to you about appraisals. Now, this is a very important topic right now, probably more important than it ever has been, because I've been a real estate agent since 2009, and I have never seen the market like it is right now. And this is early 2021. We're still in the pandemic. We thought the real estate industry would kind of tank during the pandemic, but that has not happened. We are now in a seller's market like we've never seen before. And let's talk about what that means. The way we measure a buyer's market or seller's market is by how much inventory is on the market. So for example, if a particular neighborhood sells 120 homes a year, if you divide that by 12 months, that's a neighborhood that sells about 10 homes a month. Well, if there's only 10 homes on the market and nothing else new comes on, 10 divided by 10 is 1 month of inventory, which is not enough. That's very little inventory. Most experts say equilibrium is 6 months. So anything over 6 months is a buyer's market. Anything less than 6 months is a seller's market regarding inventory. So we are in a 1 month inventory time frame right now, 1 month inventory market. Almost all my zip codes around here in 1 month inventory. Now some neighborhoods may have more or less than others, but it is a hot market right now, which means for buyers that you pretty much are going to be in a multi-offer situation on any good house, or especially great houses. They get multiple offers within a matter of days of going on the market. And the problem with that is prices are going up, okay? And with prices going up, sometimes appraisals, which can be looking at comps 6 months to a year out, are not gonna match the current market. So if you get in a multi-offer situation and you offer list or more for the house, that doesn't mean the house is going to appraise. And if you're like 95% of buyers out there, you need a loan to buy the house. So the lender's going to send their appraiser out there, and the appraiser is going to decide what the value of that home is, regardless of what you and the seller think. So the problem with this kind of market is you have to pay a lot of money. You have to price homes high to get under contract, but then is that house going to appraise? So this is a serious issue right now. And if I'm your real estate agent, I always use, or almost always use, what's called our appraisal addendum. And that says, we don't write it in the contract, we have an addendum to the contract that says that if the house doesn't appraise, you, the buyer, have the right to back out of the deal and get your earnest money back. So it's an appraisal addendum. As long as you execute it within the time frame listed on it, because you do have to list a time frame on there, so that means you have to get that appraisal in that time frame. And then if the house comes under, then you're going to have 4 options. And so I have a really good article on this, and I want you to read the article, because I'm not talking about everything in the article that I am in this video. There's other issues. You know, appraisals are not hardcore facts. Appraisals are opinions. If you get 5 appraisers to appraise the same house at the same time, you're going to get 5 different values. I can guarantee you that. And there's some, I think, questionable activity that still goes on with appraisals, because I've seen overpriced houses appraise when the buyer's putting 20% down or more, and then I've seen undervalued houses not appraised because maybe the buyer's retired, and lenders don't like that. Lenders like income, not retirement, or other factors. So it's really interesting. The more money you're putting down, the more likely the house will appraise, no matter what the value, what the price was. So, you know, I think, you know, appraisals can be manipulated. It all depends on the comps that the appraiser pulls. I've seen appraisers pull comps that made no sense to me whatsoever, and undervalue a house. And anyway, it's not 2 + 2 = 4. You know, when it comes down to it, you need to know the data. You need to see what's going on in the market. I will give you that data. You need to know what you're willing to pay for a house, regardless of what an appraiser says. But you do need to know what you're going to do if a house appraises for less than the sales price. So I'm going to go to my website and show you some handy dandy charts that I put together to help explain this a little bit better. Okay, here we are on my website, my KDHomesForSaleTX.com website. And at the top, there's a menu for all articles. If you go over to that, you can see that I have written about a lot of different real estate topics, and I do recommend you peruse this and take a look and read some of these articles because I go pretty in depth on things. But I really wanted to show you the chart that I have about in my article about appraisals and what to do when one comes in low. So I do a little discussion here, but if an appraisal comes in low, what we mean is the appraisal value is lower than the sales price on the contract. In this case, I'm saying the contract was written for $400,000. This is just an example, and the appraisal came in at $380,000. Okay, so in the situation where an appraisal comes in below the sales price, you have 4 options. Okay, and to decide those options, I have a handy dandy chart. So when you're trying to decide, the first thing you should ask yourself is, do you have the funds to pay the difference between the sales price and the appraised value, plus your down payment and closing cost? Now, if you do, then you should go to number 2, step 2. If you don't, then you're going to exercise option A, and if that doesn't happen, then you'll exercise option D. So option A, if you do not have the funds to pay the difference between the sales price and the appraised value, then the first thing you're going to do, of course, is ask the seller to drop the price to the appraised value. You know, sometimes they will. If they're motivated and they want to do a deal, sometimes they will. They don't have to. If they're not motivated, they may just put their house back on the market and find another buyer that's going to get a different appraisal. So, you know, the first thing would always be to ask the seller to drop the price to the appraised value. And if they don't do that and you don't have the money to pay the difference, then obviously you're going to have to terminate the contract, in which case you're going to get your earnest money back, but you're going to lose all your other fees and inspection cost. There's no way to ever recuperate the inspection cost and appraisal fees and survey fees and all that stuff. So that's why I don't like you to order appraisals and surveys during the option period, but that's another video. So say you do have the funds to pay the difference. Then the next question is, do you like the house enough that you're willing to pay the difference? So you might have the money to pay it, but you're not willing to pay it. You might think, well, no, I don't want to buy a house if it's overpriced. Now, you have to understand, in a hot seller's market with 1 month of inventory, that may be the way it's going to go for you to get a good house. This is not the time to be wheeling and dealing and getting, you know, a low price on a house. So you may have to pay that difference. But you do have to decide if you're willing to or not. I mean, we may be in a buyer's market and the house could not appraise. So I'm talking about seller's market, but this could happen near a buyer's market or equal market anyway. So if you are willing to go ahead and pay the difference, then you go to number 3. And this is where we're trying to evaluate. Number 3 is where we're trying to evaluate how motivated the seller is. So you kind of ask yourself all these little different questions. The more yeses you have, the more likely you can get either option A or B. The more no's you have, the more likely it's going to be option B or C. So let's talk about that. Option B is try to, to get the seller to come down in price at least part way, maybe meet them in the middle. So when we're talking about a $400,000 sales price and appraisal value of $380,000, that's a difference of $20,000. So in that case, you may want to see if the buyer will come down $10,000 in price to $390,000, and then you pay the other $10,000 difference. Or the other option you always have is just to pay the extra for the house. I mean, you really want the house, there's not much on the market, you have the extra $20,000, and that's just the example here. Then you can always elect to do that also. And this chart is there to kind of help guide you through that process. So those are your 4 options whenever a appraisal comes in low, as long as you have that appraisal addendum. If you do not have that addendum, then you don't have these options. Then that's why I always make sure that I use that addendum with my clients. So your 4 options is to ask the seller to drop the price to the appraised value, or to ask the seller to drop the price part way and meet them somewhere in the middle, or somewhere in between, I should say. Or you pay extra for the house, you pay the difference, or you terminate the contract and get your earnest money back. If you have any questions, let me know.